In my mind, there was a lot of fear that came out of the religious kind of perspective that I had. I was always told, like, don't sin, that's a bad thing, you will go to hell. And that put a lot of fear in me to not do bad things, but it never gave me the drive to want to, like, not do bad things for my own sake, right?
Yeah.
It was just fear-based. I would look around when I was around that age, around, teenager, 17, that kind of a thing. And I just seen a lot of bad things in my environment and evil. And I just thought, I was like, well, I never seen anything bad happen to those people, even though they're doing bad things. So how can this person go through life without being punished for those? And, this foolish mindset, I thought, I was like, well, then I guess God can't be real. And so that's where the shift happened.
Narrow path is to sometimes see the truth despite your own perception.
Sometimes do a little seeking to find something that'll give you hope.
For God to build you up into the person you're meant to be, you're gonna get broken down.
If God ended suffering, he would kill every single one on this planet. But instead, the one person that doesn't deserve to die, he died.
Welcome back, everyone, to Meaning Unseen podcast. I've been really looking forward to this conversation today. Josh and I met in the Army. We did our infantry courses together, and throughout the years, we've had a lot of conversations about faith, meaning, and the experiences that shaped us to see the world the way we do. We've also talked about how difficult and complicated belief can be, with everybody claiming they have the truth and they have experiences that are deeply real to them. So today's episode is not about proving anything, but it's about understanding how someone can make sense of their lived experience and how that shapes who and what they trust now. What really stood out to me about Josh's story is his exposure to different belief systems. From growing up around religion to rejecting God altogether, to exploring different philosophies and eventually having experiences that he deeply feels are connected to God. Josh, thank you for being here. Welcome to Meaning Unseen podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I know we've talked about it a few times and about trying to get me on, and I know we had some scheduling issues going on there, but I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be a good episode.
Of course, I'm super excited too. To take it a little bit back in your story, can you tell me a little bit about how you grew up around religion? What religions were you around?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was kind of raised there, I was raised not really too religious. I was raised like Christian on my father's side. And when I was young, we would kind of go to the church every now and then, but we wouldn't, say grace or pray on our own time, anything like that. We would really just kind of do it almost as like an expectation that the community had for us or another family member that urged us to go. But it wasn't out of our own hearts to kind of go to believe. It was just an expectation pretty much.
Was that also your parents' position on God and religion?
Yeah, for the most part it was. As a kid, I really had no interest in it because we didn't practice it at home. I didn't learn a lot of the teachings or really anything. Yeah.
So if somebody were to ask you then what you believe in, you would just say, I'm Christian. Did you have any understanding about who God is or anything about what Christianity says about God?
When I was younger, I wouldn't talk about it too much because I didn't understand too much. I didn't have enough information to really even say. I definitely didn't say I was Christian. I just kind of like left that blank kind of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that stayed up until a certain age and then there was a change, right?
Yeah. The change happened when I kind of got to be a little bit older, started doing my own thing around after high school and around high school. I stopped kind of participating in those kind of events with my family. And the change happened when I was kind of really just thinking about it. I was thinking about it before. In my mind, there was a lot of fear that came out of the religious kind of perspective that I had. I was always told, like, don't sin. That's a bad thing. You know, you will go to hell. And that put a lot of fear in me to not do bad things, but it never gave me the drive to want to, like, not do bad things for my own sake, right?
Yeah.
It was just fear-based.
Yeah.
And I would look around when I was around that age, around, you know, teenager, you know, 17, that kind of a thing. And I just seen a lot of bad things in my environment, and evil, a lot of darkness. And I just thought, I was like, well, I never seen anything bad happen to those people, even though they're doing bad things. So how can this person go through life without being punished for those? And, you know, this foolish mindset, I thought, I was like, well, then I guess God can't be real. And so that's where the shift happened.
Oh, okay. When was Islam introduced to you?
It was introduced to me from my mother when I was about 9 years old.
9, okay.
Yeah. My parents split up. They got a divorce, and then my mom found a different religion, like Islam, and she really, really took a liking to it. And you know, 9 years old, yeah, she really pushed that onto me a little bit, and I enjoyed the community-based aspects of it, and I still really respect a lot of the teachings in there too. So I'd be going to the mosque, you know, every other day, kind of thing with my mom, and it was nice. It was nice community.
Do you know your mom married a Muslim man? That's why she converted?
No, she never actually married. They were just kind of like dating for a few years, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And that was kind of her gateway towards it.
And so she only pursued that because of that relationship, or was it initially the relationship and then it kind of became her own thing?
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was introduced to her through her boyfriend there at the time, and from there she really just took a liking to it. Even to this day, she still follows a lot of the rules and everything of that. So she's not overly religious, but she still like identifies with it.
Do you have any idea, or probably not have memories of this, but do you have any idea what was it about Islam that she found that she couldn't find in Christianity?
I'm not too certain of that, to be honest. I like to believe because it was her choice and her decision, and she had that of her like own free will that she went and did that on her own. It was something that was personal to her. Growing up, my mom was she was a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh.
And so she was constantly doing that, you know, as a young age, all just growing up, it was expected of her.
So at that point, when you were exposed to Islam a little bit, you said you appreciated some of the teachings and you participated in going to the mosque, and it was more of a community. Did you feel like a connection to God at that point?
At that point, yeah, because I was probably practicing that for maybe around 6-ish years when I was about 14 or 15 kind of a thing, around those ages. And yeah, I found there was a really good community and just very, very just like loving people always around, and very little judgment as well. There was good teachings and good stories, and yeah, I really enjoyed it from that age until I got a little bit older and kind of separated from that.
And the fear you mentioned earlier, that fear of God, fear of going to hell, did that was that not there with Islam for you?
Not so much, no. My experience with Islam from that age range there, it was all very like loving, and they really just good community of people who really just wanted to share the word, you know, but no judgment or anything like that.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like it was a lot more community based.
Yes,
that you were really drawn to.
Yeah.
The things that you believed about God, or the things that you were told to believe about God from a young age, at what point did you feel like resistance to that and started doing your own thing?
I started doing my own thing. I would say, you know, in my teen years, you start kind of rebelling a little bit, and through always having religion kind of more or less pushed onto me, I decided I wanted to do my own thing. And combining that with an environment I grew up in, you know, it's not very welcoming. It's very dark environment. I kind of grew up in the North End, right? So you see a lot of bad things happen, especially from a young age too. And I just realized that I was like, you know what? I don't truly wholeheartedly believe in this anymore. But there was always that sense of connection that was there. But at the time, it was mainly a fear of that,
Fear of the evil.
a fear of the evil, but also a fear of punishment, from God for my bad sins that I did.
So I'm trying to just understand a little bit more about, like, I don't know if you can provide any examples of like evil that you saw and what specifically that told you about God. So seeing evil, did it push you closer towards the idea of a God, or did it push you further from the possibility of a true connection with God?
It definitely pushed me away from it.
Okay.
It pushed me away from it. I seen some kind of like harder things growing up, from just flat out, like anything, everywhere from the world of bullying to assault, even a murder. And it was really a hard thing to experience. But I always remember that, if you do bad things will happen to you. And then I would see all these bad things happening around me. And I just stopped and I asked myself, like, well, I see these bad things happening and these people doing them. There's no repercussions for them happening right now. Mm. And so how could that be?
So it's the lack of justice in the world that kind of made you
Yes,
question.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the lack of justice that really just opened that up to me. And I didn't realize that at the time that, I was like straying from a good path, but I was just in a bad situation, and I should have maybe taken a second look at that.
Well, it's interesting how our mind like compares. It's like whatever we see going on around us, it's like you see no justice. You're like, then there's no justice to the whole world. Then God is like not here. But it's exactly. Like we're literally just looking at our immediate, the person right in front of you, right? And you really don't see the bigger picture. You don't know what's going to happen when we all face God one day.
Yeah, and I think that was a very good reflection of my age at the time, like very just kind of short-sighted, everything that was just right in front of me. That's how I would judge things based off that. I wouldn't think of the big picture or anything like that. So that's where that kind of came into, kind of pushed me away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just how a kid's mind
exactly
works, I
guess.
Kids
are just a kid at the end of the day.
Ignorance is bliss.
Exactly.
Sometimes. But thank God we grow out of it to see more about life, Oh,
of course. Yeah. And even growing up more, and you experience a lot more things, some good, some bad. It was at a point in where I kind of found it again. My religion was actually when I reached just rock bottom. Totally rock bottom. I didn't really have anything kind of going for me. I experienced the death of my best friend. A very long-term relationship ended, and I just really had not a lot going on for me. Not enough going for me there. I really didn't have anything left for me, and I was just looking for anything. I was just drowning, and I really just opened myself up to the possibility that God does exist. And quickly I realized that does exist, and Jesus is there and has always been with me. So it's kind of funny when you're younger and you see those, for me anyway, I seen those things and it pushed me away. And then I got older and I also was in a very bad situation for a bit, and it brought me back into it. Yeah.
Yeah. The same thing we can observe that can push us away might be it could be the same thing that brings you right back, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Which is interesting. Just perspective.
Perspective, yeah, exactly.
Would you say your disbelief when you saw the evil, was it more philosophical or emotional? Were you God is just, so this cannot be it? Or was it just sort of an emotional reaction and rejection to God?
I definitely would say it's more philosophical than anything.
Okay.
I was just... came from a literal point of view, oh, well, that happens, a bad thing happens, or you do a bad thing. And so there has to be a bad thing that happens to you as a punishment, as a direct result. And if you don't see that direct result, then I was well, where is that then? When is it coming? And short-sightedness. And
okay. So you kind of viewed it as if you do something good on earth, you get something good. If you do something bad, it's karma, and you're expecting to see that result on this earth. I mean,
Exactly.
we're talking about you as a 9-year-old or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it was definitely, in my mind at the time, it was very very similar to just like the idea of just karma happening, but it was
Okay.
an instant result was almost like expected from me as a kid. I was just like, oh, okay, like, or I expected it to be as such,
Okay.
instant.
Instant result. Yeah. Did it feel like you were rejecting God, or did it feel like you were rejecting an idea about God? Or if God exists, then this cannot exist.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I always had a hard time pushing that idea of God out of my head, because I'd always like, well, there was no direct result that I would see all the time. So I was like, well, that possibly can't be. But then I'd look around me and I'd see just like the complexities of the world. And I was like, well, this doesn't happen by chance. And with that, it always there was just this inner combat inside me of like, well, like, I can't explain that, but I can't explain this either. So I never could really figure it out. Yeah, I never really could figure that one out there for a long time.
And a lot of people who are not entirely sure what they believe, or who say I'm agnostic, or they're usually in that middle, like, oh, I just can't find answers.
Yeah.
And like, this is not adding up, but this is also not adding up. So I'm just gonna stay out here, and if something is meant to find me, it will find me. Yeah.
I was very religious, but I need to see an answer and I need to see proof. But that's not what faith is, and I was religious, but without faith. And, now I have faith, and I can really understand like the difference in really that perspective that I had, Yeah. And I think there are also a lot of things, like faith is a huge portion, of course, but of course,
like you can never have belief based on total facts. Like faith is always going to be a portion, but I think there's also credible things that we can look at, right? Like history and stuff. And it's not necessarily for everyone, but there is stuff that we can trace back to figure out where they come from and why.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like all the time I'd always just think like, well, there's no real proof of it. I can't find proof of it. And you can look in, textbooks, and really just, you can see a proof for yourself even, but other people might not interpret it that way. And where I kind of found that, was like almost through, well, not almost, it's through a lived experience and something that I've experienced myself. And that's where I can really anchor my faith on that, rather than being told this is actually correct. It was something that I've experienced myself.
What did you think was required of you to have that experience? You talked about rock bottom.
Yeah, I would definitely say for me to find my faith, it required me to go through many, many challenges and hurdles that God put in front of me. And at the time, I had no idea it was him putting these challenges in front of me, with him knowing that I would be able to rise up to these challenges and overcome them. I just thought bad things were happening to me. And, it took me a couple of years to really realize that. And with that, I found that my faith was actually well established within God, but also like within myself too. It was, well, through my lived experience, and I'm grateful for those challenges, but I do know that they were very hard on me, and they did take their toll on me. I didn't always choose the right decision all the time, but I wouldn't trade any of that experience or do them over again, because that's where I found myself today through those.
Did the breaking open you up somehow in a way that you weren't open before?
Yeah. I was very the mindset of, I can do everything. It's up to me to do these things. I make my plan and I execute my plan. And then when my plan fails, I only have myself to blame, kind of a thing.
I went down that road.
And it's
bad.
it's bad, like I think for you to think that like I could make my own plan and God has nothing to do with it, it's laughable probably to him,
Yeah.
You really, really need God in your life. I think it's very important.
Was anger like a factor that was affecting your belief versus disbelief?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely affected it, because again, I was, short-sighted, and I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that, so many bad things were happening around me, and not even to me, just
Right.
around me, to innocent people, and there was just no repercussions for the aggressors in those. And
Yeah.
I was very angry that there was just no cosmic justice, that I was promised, and from a young age, and like that's what happens, right? But then I never seen any of it. It made me very angry, and it really pushed me to like not believe in God itself. And that was until I just gave in completely when I hit that rock bottom in my life. All right. Yeah. So like a little bit of like about me and stuff, from us working together, and just us talking about these things. But I never really asked you too much about it yourself. I believe that you did grow up religious, and you grew up Christian primarily.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I grew up in Egypt as a Coptic Orthodox Christian. I mean, Egypt, the environment is very like, most people believe in God, like 99.9%.
Yeah.
Like you nobody's like out there arguing for atheism or anything like that. You're either usually Muslim or Christian. Coptic Christians are like 10% of Egypt. So this is how I grew up. It's kind of all I knew. And if there was questions about God, it was like, oh, why do these people believe differently? Why do they pray differently? Like, it was questions between Islam and Christianity, and not so much like this whole atheism and agnosticism world is like here in the West more. And of course, like in Egypt, not everybody is truly religious, but everybody claims they are some sort of religion. And then when I came here, I did have to rediscover things for myself. There was also one thing that happened. I had a very close friend in grade 7. It was my first year in Canada. And we got really, really close. And I wasn't speaking English well. My French accent was not like their French accent in my school. So I was really struggling to talk. And that girl was Egyptian. So when we got close, she became like my friend. And then she influenced me in certain ways. And I think I was obviously going through my own culture shock. But I think I've developed some ideas about God with her from things that she said. And then eventually she actually began acting strange, and she was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. So I remember after this, I was telling my mom, like, I don't think there's a God. Look at what happened to this girl. Like, again, I was 11 or 12, and I was questioning with these things, and I'm like, she seemed very close to God. Like, why did that happen to her? Why is that the case?
Yeah.
So I had a point there of like disbelief. My mom was like, don't say that. Anyways, later on, like way past grade 7, I was kind of making up, like growing up from grade 7 to high school and until the end of high school, there was a lot of things that I just made okay for myself. I said, it's fine. I don't need to follow that rule, because again, I still saw them as rules and not so much like a way to guide your life for literally the best for you.
Yeah.
So I was going to church and everything, but I was looking also through different religions, and I was really exploring. And what I found out, I was hit with this like immense amount of information, and I'm like, to like get down to everything, to be like, yes, I've completely disproved this and this and this, and this is the only thing that's right. I'm like, this takes like probably a lifetime to do. And I'm not a scholar. I'm not, I'm not about to go to Egypt and Israel and all these places to look at the archaeology and, you know what I mean? I was like, this goes deep. But everything that I've looked into was pointed right back at Christ. The fact that Jesus was a person, he was crucified. Like he's a historical person. Even people who don't believe he was God, they believe he existed. Like it's in history that he was crucified. People who say he rose, and a lot of things, it just felt like Christianity is really the most secure and the most likely to be true option.
Okay.
Now, the faith part comes in when I get to experience God for myself, and there is no denying that. I get to see my earthly flesh and like the things it wants to do, and I get to see who God calls me to be, and I can see how it's better. Like the soul level, it is better. So the experiences, the prayers, the transformation you feel within when you pray, like, God, take this sin away from me, or this feeling away from me, anger, depression, anything. It's really a lived experience, like you said, that you can really rely on. And
Yeah.
it's I think everywhere I look, there's like endless things that point to Christ.
Yeah, I think that's you really you really get it right there. Especially that resonates with me a lot. It's a like a lifelong journey you're going through as well, and it's always there with you. I really like how you said that. Yeah, I want to just like rewind it a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
You were saying how you where like you grew up in Egypt, how everyone is like 90% plus is all religious. You know, even if they're not like avid religious followers. When you came over to the Western world, how was that for you to see so much more, agnostic and atheist people, and like how they tackled it? Because I imagine there's a very large cultural difference there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I did come a little bit young, so it wasn't the first thing on my mind, but it's definitely to this day, like, it's very interesting to see people like they're like, what? You believe in God? Like, it's like a ridiculous thing to kind of, like, a ridiculous position to hold about the world. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, you don't? Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's this idea of like, some people have looked into it. Some people are wrestling with that question. Yeah. Some people are very like, let's sit here and talk about why I don't believe in God, and they'll have whatever answers, which I think you can always reply to these. But my point is, a lot of people don't even think about it. A lot of people don't question these things often.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not too surprised. Like, it would, like, if you're never exposed to it, you just won't really question it, you know? Yeah. And you're like, I'm satisfied with no answers. And I feel like a lot of people are waiting they're like, well, we'll see when I die, if there's an afterlife or not, or if there's, and I don't know, I just think it's kind of why I started this podcast, is to challenge that quietness of thought and to like nudge a little bit, like, let's think about this. Like, this is an important question to at least explore in our time on Earth.
Yeah. I agree with that. You were saying before that like some people, like, when they're like, oh, you're religious, and you're like, yeah, you're not, like, you don't understand it. And even to this day, like, when people find out, like people who are close to me, they find out that like I am religious, and they're like, really? Like, what? Like, I didn't know. And they're almost like in disbelief, and it's like, why is that so hard to believe, you know? And sometimes I'll have them, they'll ask me the questions. They're like, oh, well, like, what do you think of that or this, you know, when it comes down to it? And I'm like, well, you know, like, do you genuinely, like, how do you know that, you know, God is real, or heaven and hell are real? How do you know this? And I was like, well, I don't know. I believe. I choose to believe. It is my faith that's keeping me with, like, that keeps that decision there. And that's something that someone who doesn't have faith doesn't really understand. It's almost like they're missing they're missing the key to that lock, you know?
The faith part.
The faith part. Everything is so literal with people, I find, in the Western world sometimes.
Because we've talked about subjective, like what you've experienced with God, which we will get to. What you've experienced with God, it's a subjective, personal thing that you felt. But to you, it feels so real that you can bet the rest of your life on this idea that God exists and that it's Jesus. So to you, it's real. Like, it's not, there is still a concrete portion of it for you, but it's not necessarily something that you can tell someone about, because you're not going to tell, it's the truth because I felt this. But to you, you felt it and you're like, what I felt, I know that was not nothing.
Exactly. It's something you just have to experience the way I
Yeah.
like to think of it. You know, you can look at a picture of the Grand Canyon and you go, oh yeah, that's the Grand Canyon. But it's a very different thing to see the Grand Canyon and to just see like just the immensity of it. Very, very different. You have to really experience that. It's not something you can just tell someone about and then expect them to understand fully.
Yeah.
You know,
there's only so much that you can say, but at the end of the day, the encounter is the key and the important thing.
yeah, it's a very personal journey in my opinion, I think.
So when your belief in the religions that were taught to you from a young age, when that fell apart and you said, I no longer believe in God, did you continue searching in that time?
I did, but not hard enough. I always kept it in the back of my head, and the main thing that kept with me and that stuck with me was the fear of not choosing the right religion. I was very conflicted of what was the true religion that I had to believe in that would get me into heaven. That fear was like, I need to get into heaven, and I don't know which religion it is. And I was like, is it Islam? Is it Christianity? And I had no idea. And I couldn't figure it out for the life of me.
But it sounds like you believed then in an eternal life.
Exactly. Yeah. I was very, very confused. I didn't even know what I believed in. Everything was just jumbled in my head.
Yeah.
You know, and I just...
some sort of neglecting that question and just
yeah,
moving with fear in general.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just kind of moving with fear, and I just wanted to make the right decision, but I just didn't know how to go about it. And I would just stop and forget. I would completely forget about it, and I would just kind of live my life and operated with no moral guidelines or anything like that. And that was probably about the start of my dark path there. I just didn't listen to any of the teachings that I was taught before as a kid. I just kind of put it out of my head, and I just started doing things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them, just very self-indulgent and selfish. And, you know, I would do like a lot of things that I did a lot of things I'm not proud of in my life. And ultimately, those things actually brought me back to my faith when I realized that my plan and my ideas are just not good enough. They're not good enough. I need help from a higher being. And that's when I stopped and I looked back at it and I went, well, I really need to just stop and think about this and really try to find the right way, what actually feels right, rather than just being self-indulgent, like instant gratification, you know? Like, oh.
Did you ever look into anything other than Christianity and Islam, or when you were questioning which one is the truth, were these two the main options in the picture, or did you explore anything else?
Yeah. Well, those were the two like main religions that I always kind of kept in the back of my head a little bit. But you know, as like a teenager is very rebellious at times, you know, especially me. And I had some friends who weren't quote unquote friends at the time, you know, and they were in the complete polar opposite of those religions, where they would kind of look at the dark side of things, you know, very edgy teenager like behavior, but they would you know, self-proclaimed Satanists and that kind of a thing. And when they talked about it, it kind of like almost reignited that religious viewpoint in me. And I went like, well, tell me about this more. Like, what are the teachings? And like, how can you think those things? Like, explain them to me. And they explained some things to me. And to my surprise, like even like certain acts of like LaVey Satanism has community too. There's a sense of community with them, and it's just something I just didn't even think of.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. But whereas I find is in some of the other main religions, they're really based around like giving and helping others, and whereas you know, like I guess the LaVey Satanism is like it's very self-indulgent, and you should take anything that you want in any point in time. The main one that really surprised me actually I knew there was a community that people really, like believed in, was that the one teaching that he told me, and then it was like him trying to convince me that it was, the right way. You care and love for your neighbor, but the moment that they wrong you, you have power and you have the decision to like destroy them in any way, and it's justified and it's allowed.
Just because they've wronged you personally.
Just because. And I was like, that is so weird. But I just learned more about it in that way. And I was like,
How does community work in a place like that?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It seems like everyone's just going to be out to get everyone at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, how could you trust anyone if anybody is allowed to stab you in the back at any point?
Yeah, it's very odd.
Do you have any examples of things that those ex-friends were telling you about, about Satanism?
Examples. How do you mean?
Because you were saying they would tell me things they do, and what do you think drew them to that?
I definitely think what drew them to that was the license to do whatever you want, just to be indulgent, anything you want, and it's justified and it's allowed, and then you get to believe like there's a higher power that allows them to do those things. So it's very tempting, I'd like to imagine, for them to just do those things and not really have to feel bad about it because it's justified.
Justifying their own desires.
Yeah, and at the time when I knew that person, they were very they were a teenager, right? And so you're impatient and you want things right away, and that really gives them gives you a good route to do those things too.
Could you fathom right now what they would have said to tell you, like, this is the truth, like, come follow this? Like, what would make someone actually think that's the truth?
I'm really not too sure, actually. That's
okay. It's probably just more of self-justifying reasons.
It's definitely self-justifying and self-serving.
Yeah.
I would like to.
It's almost like you're worshiping yourself, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what made you think that's, once you've heard about it a little bit, what made you say that's definitely not the truth? Was it saying opposite from what you've learned in the past with Islam and Christianity? Was it just a completely different thing?
It was completely different. It was it's the polar opposite, like a completely different box of frogs to any other kind of religion with moral guidance, teachings, and the only thing they really shared that I was able to pick up from that was the community that they had. And it's obviously a very small community, thankfully. Thankfully, yeah.
So would you say that exploration or what you've heard from your friends, did that just leave you feeling empty? How did that relationship with these friends change over time? Did you distance yourself from them because it wasn't aligning with what you felt was the truth?
Yeah, during that time, and the friendship I had with those people, I kept them very separate. You have your religious views, and at the time, I didn't have any religious views. I was, I was just like, well, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in that. I was like, I believe in, evolution, and but I also knew very little about that. But I seen more and more of them making bad decisions. The decisions alone that they were making, just in the long run, just didn't help them at all. And I knew almost right away, as soon as just sensing how self-serving that their viewpoints were, that just wasn't the case. Even to my soul, not even being religious at the time, I just realized it's just a selfish way of thinking in my mind or my opinion. And I just knew that wasn't something that I wanted to have around me and influence me possibly. So I think naturally that kind of ran its course, I just stopped talking with those people for a good reason, I think.
Good job. Yeah, it's very interesting that even when you had no belief in God, you were still listening to what they were saying, and you're like, that doesn't sound right, there's a right and wrong, even if God doesn't, exist to you at that point.
Yeah, there's still a moral compass that everyone has, I like to believe,
Exactly. Okay, so that was a period when you were searching, but then something shifted and you started finding some answers. Can you take us through what happened?
Yeah. Actually, let me just say that during that time, in like my late teens and even into my early 20s, I wasn't searching. I knew the difference between right and wrong. I had morals, but it wasn't something that I was searching for. I was just living like in ignorance of like, oh, that can't exist. That kind of a thing can't happen. My mindset at the time, very foolishly, was if there was a God, how can he let hurricanes happen and destroy families and people? What kind of God allows murder to happen? And, what kind of God gives a child cancer? In my mindset, I went, well, no God of mine. It wasn't until later on when I had to go through my own personal experiences for me to find that relationship and repair it, really.
So how did that happen?
Well, not religious and slowly kind of getting away from the idea of morals. I would justify a lot of the things I was doing. It's my own plan. I'll do this. I can do this. I'm allowed to do this. Who cares? Nothing matters. I always be like, well, we're just on a rock here floating out in space and nothing matters.
That would suck.
It's a very isolating, cold world when you have that mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people are fine with it, but
Yeah.
For me, that just wasn't the case and I couldn't do it. So with me living my life like that, over the years, I was making my bed and I had no idea until one day I had to sleep in it. I realized all these things around me came crashing down. I really, really made a mess of my life for a lot of years. Did a lot of things I regret. That's when I hit rock bottom. Yeah, there was a lot of moments there when my best friend passed away. My best friend Kitchen, as you know, we did our courses together. Mm-hmm. And then my long-term relationship 2-3 months after, had a fiance at the time, and that didn't turn out well. And I just had nothing. And I was aimless for months. I just nothing. I just didn't know what was going on. I was just trying to keep my head above the water,
Were you numb?
I was extremely numb. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just self-sabotaging, being indulgent, just trying to get those bad feelings away by numbing myself with whatever it was, drugs, alcohol, anything I really could do, really. Mm-hmm. I was searching for anything that would help me get rid of that feeling. And I remember I would always be going to the gym, and I would walk past a church every day when I go to the gym. And I walk past and I go, oh, there's a church, and keep going days and days. Oh, there's that church again. During that time, that's when I started to really just start taking better care of myself and try to think, what's the proper way to do things? Because I can't keep living that life anymore. Mm-hmm. And after about a few months of that and walking past that church every single day, I remember very distinctly. One day I was walking past and I just looked at it and I just stopped, and something made me stop. And I at the time I had no idea what it was, but it was God telling me to stop. And I was just intrigued by that church, and I had no idea why. And I just crossed the street. It was raining. It was raining, and I just walked in, and I went there and I just looked around, and the father, he came over and he's like, can I help you? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. I have no idea. I was like, he's like, well, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. Something told me to walk in here, and I'm here. And that was the complete start of my new religious journey with myself. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea about it.
How did it feel walking into that church?
You know what? It felt embarrassing because I lived my life so long thinking I was the one that was going to lead myself and do these things. And I just realized that I just felt embarrassed that I didn't even come to this idea sooner, that this possibly could have been the way, that I needed a helping hand. And that person was always there for me every step of the way, but they were just waiting for me to come back to that side.
If that church happened to be a mosque, do you think it would have been the same experience? Could it have been?
You know what? It very well could have been. It could have been, if I had that feeling and it brought me in there. But at the time,
your most recent experience with religion, was it more Islam or Christianity?
It was more Christianity. That's a good question, But
That's a good question.
What brought me into that church wasn't my idea and my plan. Something told me to go in there.
Okay.
And, that is, God. And Jesus Christ.
Well, if that thing was Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went in there, and very happy I did. Very happy I did.
So what happened from that point up until the next encounter that you had?
Up until that point, I started to go to that church here and there, meet some people. It's a Roman Catholic church. And before that, I really don't even know what other church I went to when I was younger. I don't even know what, what kind, anything. I was just like, oh, that's church,
Yeah.
And so I went in there. I found them to do things very, very differently from what I was kind of used to. And it was very interesting. I really liked it. But I didn't go there every Sunday or anything like that. I was just kind of dabbling into it, getting more closer and closer in my own way. It took me, I'd probably go maybe once a month, twice a month kind of a thing.
Were you discovering something new about God in those times?
Yeah. Every time I go out there, I'd walk away with something else new, different mindset, different perspective.
Even though it was a mass, right? So was it like the same thing every time you went, or was there different talks or?
Yeah, there was different talks, and I found to be very self-reflective, and times when I'd sit down and I would pray, and I would really just kind of discover more and more things about myself, even just personally. And then that's when that relationship between God and myself started to really grow.
What would you say you discovered about yourself and about God?
In that phase, when I first just kind of started dabbling and going to that church, I was just learning more the ins and outs of Catholicism, and I was just kind of like learning and picking up so much new things. I didn't understand a lot of them, and still learning.
Of course,
But the big thing what I discovered actually was my second encounter there. I was on a training exercise. I think it was the Yukon.
Yukon, yeah.
Yeah, and we were in this small community, and we were just doing our job on our patrol and stuff, and we were setting up the camps for the day, and just a wave of like an absolute tidal wave of emotion just hit me, and I didn't know what to do. I was just like almost like hyperventilating and just a panic attack, really. And I just stopped and I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening right now. And I just walked away from the camp. I was like, hey, I'll be right back. And they're like, oh, okay. And I just walked away, and I think I walked like half a kilometer away, like from the camp in the middle of the winter. It's kind of crazy.
I would be terrified.
Yeah. And I just walked and walked and walked, and trying to sort myself out, right? And I stopped, and this is exactly where I seen it. I stopped and I seen it's two mountains, and it's the winter time, right? So everything's covered in snow, and it's I was right in front of a lake. And so it's frozen over, and the wind was blowing, and it was just the wind was blowing the snow, and it's stinging my face. And I remember being really cold, but I was just having this panic attack, and I didn't know. And I stopped and I looked at the lake, and then I looked at the two mountains. In between the two mountains, there was the sun kind of pushing through the clouds a little bit. And in that moment, I started to just be overwhelmed by everything that I've went throughout the years. Guilt, regret, everything. And it wasn't until that point where I just couldn't contain it anymore in me. And I completely broke down and just started to cry. And I just remember crying and feeling the snow hitting my face, but I just couldn't stop looking at those mountains and the sun peeking through. And as the clouds slowly went away, the sun started to show. In that moment, it's a very life-changing moment for me. That's when I reconnected with Jesus and God, because I had all this guilt built up in me for years for the wrongs I've done. And in that moment, I found a forgiveness. And it wasn't me forgiving myself in that moment. It was me understanding that God and Jesus were forgiving me at that moment too. And with their help, they allowed me to get through that time. And it really just showed me that I wasn't alone. And that was probably the second biggest, or if not the first biggest moment that really just cemented my newfound belief in God.
forgiveness. So you felt like you were carrying a lot of shame, and in that moment, it was kind of like released. Did you find that shame like attacking you again later?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I deal with pretty frequently in my life, and that's something that I always have to ask for help with, and I pray. I pray for that pretty constantly, just relief from that, and that shame, that guilt and shame that I feel. Like I always ask God to help me get through this time,
What about that experience felt so real? Was it the emotional overload? Was it the transformation that followed? Was it a perspective change?
What made it feel real for me was the fact that I've been carrying all of that emotional baggage with me all those years. And I had panic attacks before and sometimes I still do. But it wasn't anything like then in that moment. That was probably the biggest one I ever experienced. And when that happened to me, it was the most intense one I've ever had. Looking on that mountain and having my attention brought away from my emotional turmoil that was going on within me at the time, and looking over that, and I just felt the presence there. And I remembered myself going to that church every other day and feeling that sense of like solace almost, just relief. And I felt that same relief as I did in that church when I was looking at that mountain, and that relief took away all that guilt and shame and anger.
It's like love, feeling peace, joy.
Yeah, I felt definitely a love from Jesus in that moment when I realized that I wasn't alone. When I was trying to do everything alone for so long, and I realized that I was never alone. He was just there with me the entire time, and he was waiting for me. Even when I was on the bad path, he was just sitting there waiting for me patiently. And when I came back Jesus came into my life again, I realized that, and he didn't come back to judge me or punish me. He came back to forgive me and help me in that moment that I needed, because I needed help the most then. And that is a very big lived experience that I don't think no one could ever persuade me from.
After this encounter is when you decided to take that step into baptism?
Yeah, it was shortly after that, after he got back through the training exercise and figured it all out, and I got back back home. I decided, I was like, you know what, like I am a firm believer now. I genuinely feel it in my heart, and I do believe this, like wholeheartedly. I was like, I will take that next step. And yeah, that's when I decided to be baptized. It was really good feeling. I was welcomed by the church, by my church at the time there. And
you got baptized in the Roman Catholic Church?
No, actually.
Okay.
No, I got baptized in a Mennonite church.
Okay.
Yeah. I was still like, I believed in God, but I was still just trying to see what the right fit was for me.
Yeah.
And still within the realm, but I'm just kind of like still looking around, right? Just what really spoke to me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So these experiences, like the one you had, these can be interpreted in a lot of different ways.
Of course.
What made you feel like this specifically points to Jesus? Do you have confidence that it's Jesus and not a spiritual experience from Muhammad? Maybe something else, maybe nature itself speaks to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why go back to God? Why go back to Jesus? Do you think is it early childhood that kind of led to that interpretation? Even if you have a hard time explaining it, do you know personally yourself, that was Jesus?
I think it does kind of relate back to my childhood of like starting out, my young faith through Christianity. I think it might start there, kind of a thing, something I've always known and been familiar with. But I still think that doesn't explain the best of like what I got to experience myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if I even have an explanation for that.
It's okay, yeah. It could just come down to like...
It was...
I know what I experienced.
Yeah, it was just that feeling, and I knew, like, without a doubt, it was God and Jesus in that moment, and I don't think I can explain that. It's just something I felt.
I'm glad this is the conclusion you came to.
Yeah.
Would not change it for anything.
It's not something you can explain, I think, in my mind.
No, yeah. So what changed in you internally after these encounters, after baptism? Did something switch in you?
I found there to be actually a gradual shift in who I was and how I conducted myself every day. And that was even just prior to going to that church for that first time and walking past, just small gradual shift and changing. And over the time, I just really, how do I explain it? It was a gradual shift.
But what was shifting? Were you more at peace? Are you just trying to rely more on God, surrender, or?
What was shifting was my perspective of the world, that I could do everything alone, that I needed it, and I didn't need anyone else or anything. It was a very selfish kind of way of thinking, and just like hyper individualistic, I didn't need anyone or anything, and that's it. I can do everything myself. And it shifted my perspective when I realized I couldn't do all these things by myself, and it's okay not to be able to. With God's help there, I was able to do these things now and be okay with them and be comfortable with them and just be confident. And it really changed the way I started treating people as well as myself. I probably imagine, like, you've seen a couple different versions of me now, Yusuf.
I feel like I have.
Yeah, you've seen a couple different times in me.
But I forget quickly, so it's okay.
Yeah. So I think you've seen me.
I mean, we did our infantry course together. We've seen sides of each other that.
Exactly. Yeah. You've probably seen a little more ruthless, selfish side of me before too. So, but yeah, I really just started to change with, like, the help of God in those moments gradually over time. And it was in that moment that I realized I was just like, I don't want to bring harm on other people. I want to help people. I want to do good.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do bad things in my life. And there was like it sounds simple enough, right?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone kind of wants those things, but how far are you willing to go to actually?
I don't think everybody wants
do those.
To do good. I genuinely don't think so.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just walk with a posture of, like, I want what's good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I did for a lot of years, and that's how it changed. Yeah.
Which is, like, literally, that's like our default.
Yeah.
And this is what Jesus asks us to do the opposite of, like, just, put others first, like, encourage others.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that fear that you mentioned, the fear that you had of eternal life or eternal condemnation, feels like that kind of dissipated with that shift, because then right now you're saying, I wanted to do good. Yeah. It wasn't, I have to do good so I can, get to this place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a huge shift, right?
It is a very big shift. Before, I would do the good thing for a reason. And the reason is to be rewarded for it, or so people would acknowledge that I did that good thing. So I would be perceived as good, until I just stopped and I went, you know what, like, a good deed is a good deed. And doing something good is the reward in and of itself. I don't need a reward for this. The reward is doing the good thing. And it makes me feel good. Yeah. And so I think, I just started to shift away from that selfish mindset, and it really changed my life.
Yeah.
It really helped out a lot too, because I changed the way I conduct myself and interact with people, especially in my profession too. It could be very very ruthless at times. Yeah. And if someone messes up, you kind of have sometimes you have the authority there to be rude to them and stuff like that. But I'd never liked to really do that too much, and now I changed the way I even just lead people, and it feels better, and I get a better reaction out of people, and people want to learn and stick around, and I think it's just positive through and through.
Yeah, it's definitely, Jesus calls us to live a different kind of life, and it seems like you really started to get light on what that kind of life is, and the fruit that it produces, fruit that you can see in people through communication, through work, literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Positive outcomes from your experience.
Yeah, there was a lot of really positive things that came out of it for me too. It would help me out with the sense of guilt I felt all the time. I carried that with me for a long, long time, and it really ate away at me. And then anger and jealousy. Jealousy was one that really snuck up on me, and I had no idea, And the anger one was things that happened to me, and I had no real way of really just dealing with it, like no sense of closure at times, and I couldn't deal with it. So I just had this anger bottled up inside me, and I just realized that I was like, you know what, like I don't need to be angry. Jesus doesn't want me to be angry at these people or just anything really, and I kept it in me for so long, and it would come out sometimes, and I would lash out, and very angry at these people all the time. And I remember that, Jesus even forgives the people that, wronged him before. Mm-hmm. And really just started to practice that myself. And so when I pray in church or at home, I pray for the people that I love. I pray for good things to happen to them. And I pray for my enemies as well.
Yeah.
And I pray that they find the path and they realize that what they're doing or what they did was wrong. And I think that's really important too, because it helped relieve that sense of anger and hatred I felt in my heart.
Yeah, that sense of injustice that you felt from a young age, that people do things and they get away with it.
Yeah.
You started having an understanding of what actually happens behind the scenes, and like at the end of the day, we will stand in front of God and
exactly, yeah,
face him. And that gave you peace.
It gave me a lot of peace, and that was an extremely big weight lifted off my chest. Like I said before earlier on, like I've experienced a lot of really bad things, like I watched a very close family friend die, in front of me, and it's and the person that did it was never found, and I had nowhere to put that anger, and I just kept it in me all those years, and it really affected me for a long, long time until I just started to pray. And, I forgive that person for doing the things that they did. It was wrong, of course, but I forgave them. And as a result, I was able to lift that anger that like weighed down on me all those years. And I think that's a really powerful thing for people to understand, that I went through a hard time in their life and had seen things. Like it's really important to realize that you can't do these things alone at times, and it's okay to ask for help.
So something I find really interesting is that throughout these experiences, which feel very real to you, and you're convicted that Jesus is God and that he died for your sin, you seem to be open towards other paths as well. And I just wanted to have a small conversation on this before we wrap up the episode.
For sure, yeah.
We've talked about this before, and sharing our faith, and we didn't 100% see eye to eye on that. What you presented was, to you, this is real because you've had those experiences, and that's how you take them as real. Now, for someone else, their reality might be different, their experiences might be different. So who am I to go tell someone else about Jesus?
Yeah.
What would you say about that right now? Can you elaborate on the idea that what you've experienced is your reality and what someone else has experienced is their reality?
For sure, yeah. What I experienced was something that I experienced, not something I was told. And for me, that is my reality. Now, just because I'm Christian and I believe that to be true wholeheartedly in my heart, I don't think that it would be even right for me to go to another person who might have experienced something with another religion and tell them that's wrong because this is what I believe. They might have their own sets of belief and their own reality they've lived through, just like me. And I don't think it's, I don't think it's right for me to judge them or try to dissuade them from that, to do something, to change their viewpoint based on what I've experienced and not what they have. Mm-hmm. I think that religion or your relationship with God is a deeply personal one. And I always keep that just in the back of my head when I'm, when I see maybe someone else practicing something else, and I'm going to go, oh, well, I don't agree with that, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that that they're wrong for doing so.
But is it true? Because you believe in Christianity to be the truth.
I believe it to be the truth, and that's what's true to me. But their belief might be something completely different, and I would like them to respect my opinion, so I respect their opinion. Even if I don't believe in it myself, I think it's if they have a set of beliefs that's different from mine, I can respect it, and I won't get in the way of it, I should say.
So if you know the truth about something, which you believe you do you think it's loving to not tell someone about what gives them eternal life?
I think that we should share and spread our word, for sure. But the moment that it combats someone else's set of beliefs, there could be a lot of problems that arise from that.
Like what?
Problems that two different religions clashing, and it's okay to have like a healthy debate about things, for sure.
Yeah.
But the moment that you try to, raise up your religious viewpoints over another's, I don't know how I would react if someone raised theirs above me and they told me that I was wrong and this is actually the truth. Everyone has good intentions, but sometimes it's just best to respect other people's opinions on those. And I try to do my best. It's not my place to try to alter their reality. For that, even if I truly believe it to be true, and I do, it's not my place to try to shake that tree that they're in to try to get them to come to my side or anything like that. I'm more than willing to share my experience, and hopefully people who don't have a faith or people who don't have like a really concrete faith of what they might not believe in, maybe it could help them, and that'd be really nice. But I don't think it's something that I'm going to actively try to dispute to another person.
Yeah. I just want to clarify, like, I'm definitely not talking about disputing or like arguing or saying I'm right, not you. Like, it's not that kind of posture that I would go in a conversation like that with. But definitely, if I do see somebody, even if they are in completely different belief systems, like somebody Muslim their whole life, and I like, it's extremely difficult to see past what you've grown up to believe your whole life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we see it all the time where people actually leave Islam and they find Jesus. But it's usually, and like 99% of the time, it's very personal encounter based, like you said, like your story. So I think the personal encounter is necessary, 100%. But I think sometimes we're called to leave seeds in people's lives. And it's not I'm trying to convince you or like I'm trying to get you on my side. It's more of like, I hope you find out about Jesus. I hope you learn who Jesus is and like you receive his gift for eternal life. So it's more of that posture. And 100%, if somebody's like opposing you or saying like, I don't want to hear you, like that's probably a good place to leave it. Like God even said like to his disciples, go in every city and like tell them about me, and whoever does not listen, shake the dust off your boots and leave the city. So he's saying like God is a treasure. Like if you're telling somebody about the good news of the gospel and they're like completely close to it, you're right, it's not going to do any good to just stay there and do. But I think a lot of people are, for me personally, because I believe it is the truth, I think the most loving thing I can do to people who do not know Christ, doesn't matter what their experience is, doesn't matter they're born in different religion, I've always practiced different religion. If I have the opportunity, and of course with wisdom, right place, right time, right way, to share what Jesus has done, to share my conviction of my faith, then I would do it. Just out of love and out of wanting us to all be united at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Even people, like you said, like you pray for people to find the path, right?
Yeah.
Because you do believe it is the truth. I think the more comfortable we get, the more conviction we get, the more we will want to share. And we're probably not disagreeing at all, because it seems like you are willing to share it. You just don't want to get into that dispute and argument portion of it.
Yeah, I just don't think sometimes it could be beneficial sometimes. I feel like a lot of, theological disputes between people that caused a lot of problems and stuff throughout the year. And even though both people have good intentions behind it, and you said leaving a seed is one thing, but some people take it a little too far at times, and they will force the seed. They try to plant that seed there by force.
You can't force a seed.
Exactly. And there's a good intention there for sure. They have a good intention within their heart, but the path to hell is lined with good intentions sometimes. And I just feel sometimes it's best to let that person, you can have the open up to them, but they have to find that for themselves, I think. You can't just force people.
100%. They have to have an experience with God.
Yes.
To convict them of the truth.
Yeah.
Because like we said, faith is a big, big part of believing in God. Faith is a big part. It cannot be taken out. So it requires a personal encounter with God. Just one last question before we wrap up this conversation. If somebody told you years ago that you'd come to the conclusions you have spiritually, would you have believed them?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think I would have until I experienced the things I did and what I've seen. I don't think I would have ever. It's it would be very hard for me to grasp, I think. And
interesting.
Yeah, but knowing what I know now, right? It's a no-brainer. It's easy for me to understand.
Very interesting how our path in life shifts, and it shifts far away from what we expect.
Oh yeah. No, definitely.
All right, this has been a great conversation. We've talked about why you believe the things you believe, and talked about conviction in Christianity and how someone can question, and I challenged you a little bit on your experiences and why you thought they specifically came from Jesus and not someone else. Thank you so much for being here today, for your honesty, and for your sharing your story with us, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. All right, guys, if you like this episode, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave thoughts, questions in the comments, and I'll see you again soon. Let's continue to explore the unseen together.